Good morning, everyone, and welcome, KSD community members. Thank you for your willingness to connect and engage this afternoon. We are proud of our school district, and we recognize that you could be anywhere virtually this afternoon, and we are glad you chose to be here. Our KSD virtual boundary review community meeting is a necessary part of the boundary process. Today, our team members will provide important information related to our planning process and share with you the why and the how our school district boundaries will be changed. You will experience what other students, families, staff, and stakeholders are also invited to experience during our upcoming community meetings on December 10th is the next at 6 p.m. And you are certainly welcome to attend each meeting as well. In general, the purpose of any school boundary review process is to adjust school attendance zones within a school district. And this process becomes necessary when attendance zones have either grown or in some cases decreased as compared to the student capacity of the schools within a district. Now, this is a common process in school districts across the country, and it may occur when a new school is built, as is the case in Kent School District, or when one is closed, but may also occur due to other shifts in population. Now, these school district boundary adjustments are necessary not only to balance enrollment, but also to coordinate school bus routes. We recognize, first and foremost, that any change can bring about some degree of anxiety and concern. And we also know that providing timely and relevant information is an important way to help reduce those same concerns. It can also be an exciting time for a school district. In fact, we are excited to open a new elementary school in the fall of 2021, funded by the 2016 bond issue, and as a result, we will need to revise our current school attendance boundaries. So the new elementary school's opening will help reduce overcrowding in some schools and eventually help balance enrollment district-wide. More than 12 years passed since our last boundary change in 2008. And enrollment has also increased and decreased at schools across our district. Student and community demographics have changed, and various educational programs and delivery methods have progressed. This summer, our board commissioned MGT Consulting Group to evaluate all school attendance boundaries in our district. Most recently, our school board reviewed the interim report on December 2nd in an open session. Today, you will hear more about those findings and the proposed boundary changes from their study. You'll also have an opportunity to share your thoughts and feedback. I encourage you to keep in mind that this is a process, and the community engagement we are undergoing now is one important part of that process. The final decisions will be made when our board takes action to adopt the final proposal. But until then, I want to thank you for your time, your attention, and your participation in this important process. I will now turn it over to Israel Vela to share some brief remarks and introduce our MGT partners. Israel?
Thank you, Dr. Watts. And again, heartfelt welcome to our KSD community with us this morning. I wanted to start by giving you a brief overview of where we started with our overall boundary analysis work. First of all, on July 22nd, our board approved an RFP that led us to selecting our MGT partners who started their work formally on August 26th. Included in part of their work moving forward to October 25th, they spent time visiting our school district. They visited all parts of our 72 square miles that included all of our schools. We are excited about them joining us as partners in the work that we have ahead of us. Again, I want to welcome all of our KSD community today, and I'd now like to turn it over to our MGT partners. Rob?
Thank you, Israel. It is our pleasure to be here today. Excuse me. As Israel said, my name is Rob Tanner, and I'm a consultant with MGT Consulting. and I will be your presenter today. I also have Dr. Casey Price, who will be moderating the chat, and she will also be the facilitator for the engagement poll everywhere questions. So a quick look at the agenda. We've already had the introductions. We're going to go over some brief ground rules. Then I'm going to give a summary presentation over the interim report. And we'll have a short piece for your questions where we're using Poll Everywhere, which will allow you to give your feedback via your personal computer or your cell phone. And then a small closing, and we'll also talk about other engagement opportunities for you at that time. So the ground rules, this session is being recorded. Moderators will be observing the chat thread and taking notes to record your feedback. No one will be identified in this report. We utilize Poll Everywhere, which will allow you to provide input via PC or cell phone. Your facilitator will take time to pause and allow people to respond to the questions. Everyone's views are valuable, and there is no right or wrong answer. And I do want to just say that normally I wouldn't read a presentation the way I do it today. However, we are translating this into multiple language so that we are reaching as many of the community as possible. So I will read the slides in whole so that those that are not viewing this in English have the opportunity to know what's on the slide. So, school boundaries. Attendance boundaries, sometimes known as school catchment areas, define the geographic extent served by local school for the purpose of student assignments. School district administrators create attendance areas to help organize and plan district-wide services. And districts may adjust individual school boundaries to help balance the capacity of local schools with changes in the local school age population. So why a boundary review now? Well, as of today, Kent School District, the current policy around boundaries has not been updated since 2008. 19 of the 28 elementary schools are at or above their design capacities, including the added portable classroom space. New elementary opening the beginning of the 21-22 school year. There are 177 portable classrooms being utilized district-wide. 12 of 28 elementary schools have misaligned feeder strands, inequitable educational program access, and utilization imbalance. This is a quick review of the boundary review process. So after the project initiation, there was a period of data collection. There were KSD leadership interviews, followed by a community survey. Then there was analyzation of all of the data that was submitted and found. That was compiled into an interim report. And now we are at the community engagement and input phase. And in the last phase, taking all of the previous phases under consideration to come up with a final report. So data collection and review. We collected and reviewed initial district data, recent survey data, prior reports, plans, other source documents pertinent to the study. We gathered school district information, including current school capacities, current school enrollment and enrollment policies, planned new school construction, addition and renovations to existing facilities, current elementary, middle, high school boundaries and attendance zones, historical geocoded student data, current student transportation data, grade level configurations, school year schedule, reconfiguration and or addition history or policies, program participation, transfer policies, and transportation patterns. These are just a few, and there were others. So the student family survey. The survey had a total of 7,579 respondents. The survey was offered and completed in 8 different languages, and survey respondents reported speaking 72 different languages at home. 7,081 respondents chose to answer the demographic questions. Of that, 44.8% were white, 21.1% Asian, 11.2% Hispanic or Latino of any race, 10% 2 or more races, 9.3% Black or African American, 2.9% Native Hawaiian or other Pacific Islander, and 0.8% American Indian Alaskan Native. Survey participants represented students from every school and every grade level throughout the district. And the top 4 most important factors, in the school boundaries in order were: number 1, aligning elementary, middle school, and high school strands so that classes of students progress through the system together from kindergarten to high school. 2, reduce travel or transportation issues. 3, balancing enrollment boundaries to address school capacity. And 4, providing equitable access to programs across the district. Enrollment and capacity. KSD enrollment has remained stable over the last 5 years, apart from the 2021 school year, which is a little more than 4% lower when compared to the previous year. This downturn in enrollment can be mostly attributed to the COVID-19 pandemic, and it is in line with what school districts are experiencing across the nation. MGT projections indicate a rebound in enrollment for the 21-22 school year, assuming that there is somewhat of a normal school year for 21-22, and only a slight decline over the following 4 years. The graphic to your right, the chart to your right, illustrates not only the historical and projected enrollment as totals, but it also breaks down those enrollments into elementary, middle, and high school bands. Utilization is calculated by dividing the current or projected enrollment of educational facilities by the capacity. 19 of the 28 elementary schools are at or above their design capacity. And this does include the 177 portable classrooms. Without those portable classrooms, that utilization would be even higher. None of the middle schools are at or above their design capacity, and 1 of the 4 high schools is at or above its design capacity. And then the graphics to the right is just a visual of where those under or over utilized schools are with relationship to the district as a whole. As you can see, red indicates 100% utilized rate or higher. Blue is 99 to 90% utilization rate, and green is 89% utilized or lower. New elementary school. So KSD has expended funds to design, plan, and construct a new elementary school located on the west side of the school district in what is now the Neely O'Brien attendance boundary. The new school will help with overcrowding of Neely O'Brien Elementary, as well as several surrounding elementary schools. To create a boundary for the new elementary school, the surrounding elementary borders must be adjusted. And you can see the current boundaries are the map to the left, and the map to the right are proposed boundaries. The new elementary school will consist of the northern part of the current Neely O'Brien, as well as a piece of the Panther Lake and Springbrook schools, and a little small piece of East Hill as well. Then the other adjustments, Neely O'Brien will be adjusted for taking a small piece of Kent school boundary and Scenic Hill school boundary. And then East Hill will be expanded south into Meadow Ridge. The table shows what the current resides are in those boundaries and what the proposed resides are, and then the amount of change. And I want to clarify that resides and enrollment are two different things. So the definition for resides are, they are the elementary school students that addresses are inside that school boundary, whether it's the proposed or the current. Enrollment takes into account other transfers like highly capable or inclusive ed or dual language or any other program that a student might choose to go to that's outside of their resides boundary. So the report proposes moving 6th grade to middle school. As shown in the table, there are currently insufficient seats at the elementary level and excess seats at the middle and high levels. This proposal is necessary to achieve the feeder pattern alignment, the reduction of travel time and transportation issues, enrollment balance, and the equitable access to programs across the district. It also remedies misalignment with the state of Washington educational standards. The state of Washington's educational and assessment standards are K5, 6-8, and 9-12 bands. So the move for 6th grade to middle school will align KSD with those educational standards. This option will require converting the current Kent Phoenix Academy, Kent Mountain View Academy back into a middle school after KMVA moves to its new building. As a result, there will be approximately 2,000 available seats at the middle school level for the 6th grade to move into. Balancing of enrollment. Most elementary schools are at or above their design capacities. However, some elementary schools are below capacity or in geographic location where their boundaries can be changed to help balance enrollment with neighboring schools. So the next few slides shows some boundary enrollment balancing. The first here is Cedar Valley and Jenkins Creek. You can see the current boundaries and the proposed boundaries. And then again, the current resides and the proposed resides, and then the change. Again, resides are the students that live within those boundaries, not necessarily the enrollment of the school. This slide shows Grass Lake and Horizon and Covington. And this slide shows Millennium, Pine Tree, and Meadow Ridge. And this slide shows Meridian Elementary and Sunrise Elementary. And there's a proposed adjustment to the Kent Lake boundary. The Kent Lake attendance boundary is very large because of the lower population density immediately surrounding the school. This has resulted in the attendance boundary being expanded to bolster enrollment. KSD administrators expressed concern regarding the travel times for some Kent Lake students due to the large boundary area. KSD should consider instead magnet program opportunities at Kent Lake to address the underutilization. So current or aligning feeder patterns. So aligning feeder patterns allows students to stay together with their peers through high school, which can create a sense of belonging, especially in areas such as sports, music, art, band, and extracurricular clubs. Education programs can be distributed equally into the 4 high school feeder strands, resulting in more equitable access. It allows educators from different grade levels to collaborate on instructional strategies and create pedagogy alignment vertically. So the graphic to your right shows the current feeder patterns. And when we say align feeder patterns, what we mean is so that an elementary school moves entirely to a middle school, and then that middle school moves entirely into a high school. Currently, there are, I believe, 12 elementary schools that do not do that. They either split at the middle school level and go to 2 different middle schools, or they split at the high school level and go to 2 different high schools, or both. So looking at aligning those feeder strands, the next few slides, the next 4 slides, are each high school and then the proposed strands. So for example, you can see the map. So the first map to the left is high school. The middle map is the middle school boundaries, and then the far right map is all the elementary schools that make up those middle schools. And so in the table, it shows all of the elementary schools, and those elementary schools feed into their respective middle school, and then the middle schools feed into high school. And so this is the Kent Ridge strand. And then this slide shows Kentwood. Same concept here. We have Madison and Meridian Middle School that will feed Kentwood, and then the elementary schools that feed their respective middle schools. And Kent Meridian, again, same concept. With this one, you will see that there is a new middle school, and that's what I was speaking about, converting the current Phoenix Academy into a middle school, which it was at one point in time. And then Kent Lake's feeder strand. Kent Lake only has Cedar Heights Middle School, so there's only one middle school in Kent Lake strand. Educational programs, trying to ensure that we distribute programs within the attendance boundaries equitably. So to resolve distribution inequity of educational programs, KSD should reduce overcrowding of schools, align the feeder patterns, conduct a review of the educational programs and their accessibility to students now, create a strategic and equitable distribution plan into the feeder strands, and then develop a process for continuous review to ensure the equitable distribution over time for those programs. And with that, we're going to move to our poll everywhere questions. And I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Dr. Casey Price.
Thanks, Rob. Let's give it one more second. Sometimes it takes a second to catch up to what we've got going on. All right, so if everybody would get their phones out or pull up an extra browser on their computers, we're going to go ahead over here. We're just going to switch over to this version and go to the full screen web view. And we are going to do some polling on Poll Everywhere today. So if you want to join us on your computer, if you pull up a browser and go to pollev.com/NGT Consulting, it will take you to a browser that you can type in the keyword NGT Consulting. If necessary, it might just take you directly to this poll. If you have your cell phone and want to join us by text message, if you text NGT Consulting to the number 22333, you will be able to join the session. So the best way to describe that is if your friend's cell phone number was 22333, you want to put that in where you would be calling them. And then in the text message, you want to send them the message MGT Consulting. Once you're in the session, it will tell you that you joined Casey Price's session, and you can begin to respond. And so in this case, the first question is, are you a parent or guardian of an enrolled student in KSD? Text A for yes, text B for no, or text C for I am a student in KSD. So we'll give it a second for those responses to come in. If you ever text or submit the wrong answer, you can always type undo and it will undo your response and let you enter a new one. And the answers to our poll to all of the questions today are anonymous. So even if you joined on the computer and it asked you to enter your name, we've got everything set to record in an anonymous function, so we won't see that. And we'll give this about 10 more seconds to record responses. So if you have not entered a response yet, please go ahead and do so now. And these first couple questions are really just designed to get everybody into the system and make sure that we know how to use it. All right. And so the next question, again, either on your computer or by your cell phone, what school does your student attend? And you can just go ahead and text that response. All right, and we'll give this about 10 more seconds as well. All right. And the next question. Which of the following statements most closely represents your thoughts of the proposed boundary changes due to the opening of the new elementary school? Text A for, I like the changes and think they will benefit students. Text B for, I do not like the changes, but agree they are necessary and will benefit students. Text C for, I do not like the changes and think the changes should be reevaluated. And text D if you do not have an opinion. All right, we'll give this about 10 more seconds. Oh, I'm sorry if my screen's blanking out on you. It blanked out on my end. All right. And the next question. Do you agree or disagree that portable classrooms are an acceptable option for overcrowded schools? Text A for yes, agree. Text B for yes, but only temporarily. Text C for no, KSD should develop a plan to remove portables. Or text D if you do not have an opinion. And again, if at any point you wish to change your response, you can just text undo and it will take your response and remove it, and then you can text whichever response fits your opinion. And we'll give this one about 10 more seconds as well. All right. Knowing it is necessary to move the 6th grade to middle school to achieve feeder pattern alignment, reduction of travel time and transportation issues, enrollment balance, and equitable program access, which statement most closely represents your thoughts? And I apologize that they're tiny. Text A for I think 6th grade should move to middle school. Text B for I do not like the idea, but agree it is necessary. Text C for I think 6th grade should remain in elementary school. And text D if you do not have an opinion. And we'll give this one about 10 more seconds as well. Okay. Which of the following statements most closely represents your thoughts of the proposed boundary changes to help balance enrollment in elementary schools? Text A, if you think the boundary changes as that the boundary should change as proposed to balance enrollment. Text B, if you think the boundaries need to change, but the proposed changes need to be modified. Text C, if you think the boundaries should stay in their current configuration. And text D if you do not have an opinion. And we'll give this one about 10 more seconds. Okay. Which of the following statements most closely represents your thoughts of the proposed boundary changes to reduce the size of the Kent Lake boundary? Text A for I think the Kent Lake boundary should change as proposed. Text B, if you think the Kent Lake boundary should be changed but not as proposed. Text C, if you think the Kent Lake boundary should stay in its current configuration. And text D if you do not have an opinion. And we'll give this one about 10 more seconds as well. Aligning KSD schools into the 4 high school strands so that classes of students progress through the system together from kindergarten to high school is the right thing to do. Text A if you strongly agree. Text B if you agree somewhat. Text C if you neither agree or disagree. Text D if you disagree somewhat, or text E if you strongly disagree. And we'll give this one about 10 more seconds as well. Should educational programs such as inclusive education, highly capable, and dual language be distributed equitably so more students have access and limit transportation time? Text A, yes, if it's financially feasible. Text B, yes, regardless of cost to provide equitable access to all students. Text C for no, keep programs at a small number of central schools and transport students. Text D if you do not have an opinion. And we'll give this about 10 more seconds as well. Okay. Using only one word or a hyphenated word, how would you describe the findings and the proposed changes of this review as a whole? And as you can tell, if you respond with words that are already on the page, they will get larger. So if there's words that are out there that you agree with, go ahead and you can submit more than one time, and those words will get larger. And we'll give this about 10 more seconds as well. Okay. We'll flip through these.
Thank you, Casey. So concluding remarks and next steps, there will be an additional forum on December 10th. I believe that is at 6 p.m. Please participate in the KSD proposed boundary change thought exchange. That is a different avenue for you to express your opinion. You can participate now through December 12th. You can find that on the Kent webpage. Additionally, if you have questions, you can email your questions to boundary@kent.k12.wa.us and to get your question answered, or maybe it's just a concern. There's also a frequently asked questions and answers page on the website. And those questions from the boundary email address that are appropriate will be added there when we get new ones. So before you ask your question, you might look at the frequently asked questions because it may already have been asked and answered there. If you don't see it, then please feel free to ask via that avenue. Following all of this input through the thought exchange, through these forums, we will translate that data for the school board. Then we will be taking all your feedback to make changes in the proposals and create a final report with recommendations to present to the school board, I believe, in January. So with that, I thank you all for participating in this forum today, and I will turn it over to Dr. Behringer.
Good afternoon. Thank you all very much for taking the time to join us this afternoon. Thank you, Rob and Casey from MGT for joining us and presenting the material to our community. Thanks to the executive cabinet and our central office staff for working behind the scenes on answering questions for our stakeholders who are asking them throughout the presentation. And thank you again for all of you taking the time out of your day today to be with us this afternoon to find out more about the boundary change process, the interim reports, and to be able to ask those valuable questions that I know are on top of mind for most of you that are on this call. As I'm sure most of you have questions yourself, as well as listening to stakeholders as well. So we thank you for bringing that voice to the question and answer section of this presentation, because your voice is important and critical to this decision-making process. It is important to remember that this is a process. We are in the middle of a process. No decisions have been made. We are in ongoing conversations as we continue to work through the interim report that MGT has produced and shared with the board, as we continue to get more input from our stakeholders, like events like today, through our boundary email, through our thought exchange feedback. All of that is critically important as we continue to make adjustments and look at our current interim report and be thinking about the impact to our students and our community about the decisions that we'll made, because we understand this is a big decision and a huge impact to our community. So we want to make sure we make the right decision in a timely manner. So again, thank you very much for your time. What I'd like to do is just summarize and highlight some things from our time today. First, I'd like to start with, and I know that as we were doing the poll everywhere, everyone's not able to see or keep up with those figures coming in because you're texting in your own figures, you're either looking at responses to the questions in the question and answer, or you're writing your own questions in the question and answer. So I just want to give you an overview of today, Tuesday afternoon, this particular community group, where your answers and percentages fell. So the first question is, are you a parent or guardian of a student enrolled in KSD? 75% on the call today that participated said they were, 25% were not. Of course, the open-ended question of which school does your student attend, many answers scattered throughout the entire district, which is great. I'd like to see that representation in these particular community forums. Which of the following statements most closely represents your thoughts of the proposed boundary changes due to the opening of a new elementary school? 49% said they like the changes and think that they will benefit students. 6% said, I do not think the changes, I do not like the changes, but I agree that they are necessary and will benefit students. 34% on the call today said, I do not like the changes and think the changes should be reevaluated. And 11% did not have an opinion. The fourth question was, do you agree or disagree that portable classrooms are an acceptable option for overcrowded schools? 17% said they agree. 38% said yes, but only temporarily. And 45% said no, KSD should develop a plan to remove portables. Okay. Question 4, knowing it is necessary to move 6th grade to middle school to achieve feeder pattern alignment, reduction of travel time and transportation issues, enrollment balance, and an equitable program access, which statement most clearly represents your thoughts? I think 6th grade should move to middle school. 62% said 6th grade should move to middle school. I do not like the idea, but I agree it's necessary, 16%. So almost 80% said 6th grade should move to middle school, even though the idea is, for 16% didn't like the idea, but they felt it was necessary. I think 6th grade should remain in elementary school. 22% of our respondents today felt that 6th grade should remain in elementary school, and nobody had a different opinion or no opinion at all. Which of the following statements most clearly represents your thoughts of the proposed boundary changes to help balance enrollment in elementary schools? I think the boundaries should change as proposed to balance enrollment. 44% stated they should. I think boundaries need to change, but the proposed changes need to be modified. 39% said that. I think the boundaries should stay in their current configuration. 7%. And 11% did not have an opinion on that question. Which of the following statements most closely represents your thoughts of the proposed boundary changes to reduce the size of the Kent Lake boundary? I think the Kent Lake boundary should change as proposed, 26%. I think the Kent Lake boundary should be changed, but not as proposed, 24%. I think the Kent Lake boundary should stay in its current configuration, 12%, and 38% had no opinion. Aligning KSD schools into the 4 high school strands so classes of students progress through a system together from kindergarten to high school is the right thing to do. 52% of you strongly agreed. An additional 33% agreed somewhat. 4% said I neither agree nor disagree, and 4% said I agree or I disagree somewhat, and 8% strongly disagreed. Next question, should educational programs such as inclusive education, highly capable, and dual language be distributed equitably so more students have access and limit transportation time? 49% of you said yes, if financially feasible. 43% of you said yes, regardless of cost to provide equitable access to all students. And 6% said no, keep the programs at the smaller number of central schools and transport students. The final question was your one-word response. And as I was trying to capture the numbers that were getting bigger and smaller as the exercise went on, know that these are not in any particular order. but these are, from my perspective, the largest in print words that I saw on the screen before Casey took it off. So in no particular order, these are the words that describe the findings and the proposed changes for this particular review as a whole. First word, needed, acceptable, concerning, thorough, frustrating, ill-timed, incomplete, positive, racially segregated, and thoughtful. Those were my quick eyes that I was able to see on the screen at that particular time. As you know, there were several words, 30 plus words on the screen. So appreciate everyone's participation in that and in your participation throughout the poll everywhere. What I'd like to do now is just share with you, because we have a little bit of time, some of the frequently asked questions that I know are top of mind for a lot of our community members, parents, staff members. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to read the frequently asked question that I know that many people are waiting for responses on, and then I'll read the response for you so you have some information. So the first question is, why now? Why in the middle of an exceptional year or coming back from an exceptional year, I'm assuming the pandemic, this is causing even more change and stress for children and parents. So why now? The response is more than 12 years have passed since our last boundary change in 2008. Over that period, enrollments have increased and decreased at various schools across the district. Student and community demographics have changed, and various educational programs and delivery methods have progressed. Before the request for proposal was approved by the board and the contract with MGT Consulting was approved by the board, planning began with KSD leadership in the superintendent's cabinet in the fall of 2019, before the COVID pandemic was even on our radar and leading up to the request for proposal. The superintendent's cabinet includes all labor partners and the PTSA president representing Family Voice. Additionally, other notable reasons for the need to not wait for the boundary study proposed boundary changes include current board policy has not been updated around boundaries, the boundary change since 2008. 19 of our 28 elementary schools are at or above their designated capacities, including added portable classroom space. A new elementary is opening at the beginning of the 21-22 school year. Kent School District has 177 portable classrooms that are utilized district-wide. 12 of our 28 elementary schools have misaligned feeder strands. We have inequitable educational program access for our students, and utilization is unbalanced of our schools. Another question, is there a place to view the proposed boundary changes online? Yes, there is. On the KSD website, Boundary Review Interim Report is what you're looking for. It shows each school, its capacity, the utilization, and a current map along with the map of the proposed changes. Next question, will there be opportunities for family and community engagement, especially our communities of color? Our students, families, and staff have been invited to attend one of our 3 KSD boundary community meetings, which you're attending right now, being held virtually due to the COVID. Our final event is this Thursday at 6 p.m. We're providing live translations of captions thanks to Microsoft during these events. Students and families are invited to share their thoughts around proposed boundary shifts through Thought Exchange, which will close this Saturday evening, December 12th. The link is in the chat. You can also find that online. Both MGT and KSD leadership value the need for community input in this process. Community engagement began with a survey in October. We also both value equity as a core value of our work. In KSD, we continue to make engaging our communities and leaders of color a priority, even during this pandemic, a priority of our work and our district initiatives. A couple more FAQs. Why is there a recommendation to move 6th grade to middle school? 1, reducing overcrowding at the elementary schools. Moving the 6th grade to the middle school combined with elementary schools being over capacity by more than 1,000 students. This gives us approximately 2,000 sixth grade students in the year of 2021 district-wide. And with our elementary schools already over capacity, the need for moving them to middle schools is part of this proposal. Moving to sixth grade will result in approximately 1,750 excess seats at the elementary school level when adding the new elementary school's capacity into those figures. Students will have 3 years in the middle school to prepare for success in high school. As well, academically, the sixth grade learning standards and assessment alignment. State of Washington learning standards and assessments are structured in a K-5, so kindergarten through 5th grade, 6th grade through 8th grade, and 9th through 12th grade bands. Moving 6th grade to the middle school will align instruction with the Washington State learning standards and the assessment structure. State math and science assessments are administered in 8th grade, having an extra year of middle school instruction with specific science content and math content. In addition to the K-5 instruction, and these content areas should help provide students with better for success on these assessments. And lab science is an important component of state assessments. Having 3 years in the middle school of lab science experience will better prepare the students in meeting challenging next generation science standard science standards. One more question. Are the whole neighborhoods assigned to attend the same school? Yes, wherever possible, whole neighborhoods are aligned in the proposed school feeder patterns. So those are the FAQs we have to share with you today. I know that we were not able to answer every single question that came to us in the Q&A section. Know that we will be working on those questions to respond in a timely manner. Those answers will be available on our district website in our FAQ section as we respond to those questions. We hope to see everybody, if you're able to, on Thursday, 6 p.m. at our next community event. We appreciate your feedback. We appreciate your time. Again, we apologize for not getting to all of the questions, but we will get to all the questions. Remember, this is a process. We're in the middle of the process, and your voice is very, very important to the decisions that will be made in this process. So thank you very much and have a great rest of the day.